So today what we're going to be talking about is another way to solve a quadratic equation. That would be solving a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Should be familiar, this formula. Alright, so what I would like you to do is to do the try this, which is to simplify these square roots. Then come back and check your answer. Okay, so we have the square root of 48. So what perfect square goes into 48 would be 16. So we have, that's the largest. So the square root is 16 times the square root of 3. The square root of 16 is 4, so we get 4, the square root of 3. So what perfect square goes into 75? So we have 25 times 3. The square root of 25 is 5, so we have 5, the square root of 3. All right, so let's take a look at the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b. So what this means, it's opposite of whatever your b value is. Plus minus, and the reason why it's plus minus is because you have a square root. And it's the square root, and under the square root is b squared minus 4 times a times c, and that's all over 2a. All right, so we're going to write down what to do to solve using the quadratic formula. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put equation in standard form. Standard form, remember, is ax squared. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. That would be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So basically, you should have your x squared first, your x, and then your c, and it should be equal to 0. Okay, next, you're going to identify a, b, and c. Now remember, a is what's in front of the x squared, b is the number that's in front of x, c is the number that has no x. Okay, then you're going to plug into the formula. So plug a, b, and c into formula. Okay, next, you're going to simplify. So now, when you simplify, make sure you also simplify the radical. Make sure to simplify radical 2. Okay, last thing is to reduce. Now when you reduce, I want you to break apart and then reduce. So break apart, then reduce. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. I'm just going to write the quadratic formula right here so we can see it. So it's x equals negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so number one, we have here x squared minus 6x equals 7. So notice this is not in standard form because it has to equal 0, can't equal 7. So I'm going to move the 7 over to the left. So that's a positive 7, so I'm going to minus 7. So I get x squared minus 6x minus 7 equals 0. And notice the 7, I didn't add that with anything because there's no like terms. All right, now we're going to identify a, b, and c. Remember, a is the number in front of x squared. There is no number here, so that means that's a 1. B is the number that's in front of your x, so that's negative 6. Watch the signs. C is the number that has no x, that's negative 7. All right, so now we're going to plug it into the formula. So you start off with x equals. Now it says negative whatever b is. So it's negative 6. Negative whatever b is. Plus minus square root parentheses negative 6 squared, because it says b squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 7. Watch the signs. Make sure that radical goes over that 7. Over 2 times your a, which is 1. All right, so now we have x equals, this negative 6 becomes positive 6, plus minus. Now what I want you to do is plug in into your calculator, not the radical, just what's under the radical. Because notice I put the radical here. It's waiting for us, so I don't need to put the radical into the calculator. So just plug in what's under the radical. And we get 64, and that's over 2 times 1, which is 2. All right, so the next thing we have to do is we have to simplify. So simplify the square root of 64. So we have x equals 6 plus minus 8. That's the square root of 64 over 2. Now we're going to separate this. So we have x equals 6 plus 8 divided by 2. And then we have x equals 6 minus 8 divided by 2. You have to actually simplify these and finish them. So we have 6 plus 8 is 14 over 2, which is 7. So that's one of your solutions. 6 minus 8 is negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So my solutions are negative 1 and 7. You don't have to write it in brackets, but those are the two solutions. All right, let's try number 2. Okay, so I noticed for number 2, which is 3x squared equals 2x plus 3, it's not in the right form. So I have to move the 2x over to the left and the 3 over to the left. And the reason why I'm going to move this 2x plus 3 over to the left is because I want to keep my x squared positive since it is positive here. So I'm going to minus 2x and minus 3, both sides. So I get 3x squared, I'm going to put it in the right order, minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Identify a, b, and c. A is what's in front of x squared, which is 3. B is the number in front of x, which is negative 2. C is the number that has no x. That's called your constant, which is negative 3. All right, now we're going to plug it into the formula. So remember the formula up here. I have it. X equals negative whatever b is, that's negative 2. Plus minus the square root, use parentheses, negative 2 squared. Minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 3. All over 2 times a, which is 3. Okay, so we have x equals negative 2 is 2. Plus minus square root. Now we plug in what's under the square root, not the square root symbol, because I'm putting the square root symbol here. So just negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 3, and we get 40 over 6. Okay, so now the square root of 40, we can't take the square root of 40, but we can simplify it. So I'm going to simplify it right over here on the side. So what perfect square goes into 40? 4 and 10, which is 2 the square root of 10. All right, so we have then x equals 2, that was from the beginning here, plus minus, now the square root of 40 is 2 the square root of 10 over 6. Now we're going to separate. X equals 2, so remember, this 6 is underneath both here. 2 over 6 plus minus 2 the square root of 10 over 6. Now you're going to reduce. So 2 and 6 reduce to 1 and 3, so that's 1/3. Plus minus 2 and 6, 1/3. So it would be the square root of 10 over 3. Now there is another way that you can write this, and we should be aware of this. Or I could show you another way to simplify, actually. That would work also. So if we have this, if I don't separate that, if I leave it as x equals 2 plus minus 2 the square root of 10 over 6. What I like to tell my other classes is If you can make a heart, notice I'm making a heart with the numbers, not the radical. Only the numbers, the 2, the 2, the 6. And you can reduce by a particular number, then you can reduce it just like this. Leaving out the square root of 10. You're not including the square root. So what number goes into 2, 2, and 6? That would be 2. So 2 reduces to 1. This 2 reduces to 1, and this 6 reduces to 3. And then we could leave it as one fraction. So don't forget the 1 here. 1 plus minus 1, the square root of 10, but I don't need to put the 1 in front of the square root of 10, over 3. That's just another way to write it, okay? All right, so that's it, and we'll practice in class tomorrow. Everybody have a good night.